We've all heard the whispers, haven't we? That elusive secret to building serious wealth. There's that common saying, millionaires have 7 streams of income. But is that just like a nice idea, a motivational phrase, or is there actual truth there?
Well, today, we're going to cut through the noise. We're diving deep into an incredibly unique source, a research study, believe it or not, published by the U.S. tax authorities, the IRS, back in 2015. Yeah, the IRS, they get a bad rap sometimes, but wow, they can uncover some fascinating data.
It's true, and the study has this brilliant title, Over the Top, How Tax Returns Show That the Very Rich Are Different from You and Me.
Hmm.
And it's exactly what it sounds like. This wasn't some, theoretical survey. It was a really meticulous look at actual tax returns from a sample of over 6,000 wealthy individuals who had passed away between 1996 and 2002. So imagine getting this direct, unvarnished look at how these massive fortunes were actually built. It's an amazing peek behind the curtain. And the revelation, straight from the source, it confirms it. What people have speculated about, it's true. The wealthy do build up to 7 distinct sources of income. It's not just a saying. It's like documented reality for the super rich. Really makes you rethink wealth building. So our mission today is pretty clear. We're going to pull back that curtain on these 7 specific income sources the IRS found. We'll get into why passive income is just so crucial, not just for freedom, but stability too. And most importantly, we'll give you actual strategies you can maybe explore to start building your own diverse income streams. Let's unravel this.
Okay, let's really get into this IRS study then. It pinpointed 7 very specific types of income these wealthy folks consistently had. The first one, investment income. What exactly did they mean by that?
Right, so this is basically the distributions of profits from stocks, dividends mostly. But the key thing to grasp here is the scale for these people. It's not just, a few shares here and there. We're talking big diversified portfolios, yielding substantial regular payouts, often millions in dividends every year. Income they might not even need for living expenses. It compounds.
Right. Okay, then the second one on their list is earned income. This is what most of us think of first, yeah.
It is, absolutely. This is income from your main job, your profession. You're actively trading time and skills for money, like the salary for a CEO or a top lawyer, maybe a highly successful consultant. Even for the very rich, a big chunk of their initial wealth often comes from this, from active earned income before they deploy it into those other streams.
Makes sense. Okay, third source, rental income from properties. What's the job about this one in this study?
Well, for the wealthy, it often goes way beyond just like one rental house. It could be income from lots of residential units or commercial buildings, maybe even huge real estate portfolios. The insight, I think, is that it's not always about actively dealing with tenants day to day. It's about owning assets that just generate consistent cash flow, often managed by other people.
Gotcha. Then number 4 was returns income. This one sounds a bit vague. Gains from selling ownership rights. What's that about?
Yeah, this one's fascinating. It's not just selling the whole thing. Think of it like maybe selling the future royalty rights to a song you wrote or a book you publish, or even just selling a small piece of some intellectual property you own. It's about getting cash now for a piece of an asset or its future earnings without necessarily giving up the whole thing or having to keep creating. It really shows how the ultra-wealthy monetize ownership in ways most of us don't really think about beyond just selling shares.
Interesting. Okay, and capital gains was number 5. How's that different from, say, investment income?
Right, so capital gains are the profits you make when you sell an asset, stocks, bonds, real estate, whatever, for more than you originally paid. The difference here is these aren't the regular payouts like dividends or rent. They're often big, less frequent windfalls from strategic sales. And they often hold these assets for a long time, partly to get, lower long-term capital gains tax rates.
Okay, 6th, they pointed out profits from owned companies. Is that different from just earning some stock in Apple or something?
Totally different, yeah. This usually means profits from private businesses, companies where the wealthy person has a significant ownership stake. So it's not just publicly traded stock you buy on an exchange, it's direct profit distribution from a company they might have founded or invested in really early or maybe acquired. And often they don't need to be involved day to day anymore. Think silent partners or founders whose businesses now run themselves. It's about owning profitable ventures directly.
Okay. And finally, number 7, interest income. This sounds pretty straightforward, right? Savings accounts, bonds.
It is, yeah. But again, think scale. It's the income from savings accounts, CDs, bonds. Seems basic, but for the ultra-wealthy, holding massive amounts in high-yield savings or fixed income stuff can generate millions in interest every year. Just another layer of passive income stacking up in their portfolio.
Wow. Okay, so looking at that whole list, 7 different ways money comes in.
Hmm.
What really ties most of those together? What's the common element?
Well, what's really striking, and the common thread you see weaving through most of those, maybe not earned income as much, but the others, it's the concept of passive income. And that's really the vital topic for our deep dive today, because that seems to be the engine driving so much of this wealth accumulation.
Okay, so if that's the common thread, the big secret sauce, maybe. What is passive income really? Like, how is it actually different from what most of us rely on day-to-day active income?
Right, the million-dollar question, pun, maybe intended. Passive income is, well, it's essentially revenue or profits you get from investments or business interests that need minimal ongoing effort from you.
Mm.
The classic idea is money flowing into your bank account while you are asleep in bed. It's about setting something up once, maybe making an investment, and then it keeps generating returns without you actively constantly working on it. The IRS, for tax reasons, they define it pretty specifically as net income from rent or from businesses where you don't materially participate.
Right, and just a quick clarification for you listening. While the IRS has its technical definitions for tax purposes, there are nuances. Like, if you're super hands-on managing your rental property every day, the IRS might see that differently, maybe call it portfolio income or something else. But for our chat today, we're really focusing on that broader idea. Money earned with minimal ongoing direct effort from you. That's the key takeaway. Profits without you being constantly involved.
Exactly. Now, flip side, active income. Sandy Young, she wrote The Money Master, puts it really simply. Active income is exchanging time for money. This is what most folks know well, right? Your full-time job, being a freelancer, billing hours, or running your own business where you have to be there doing the work. Your earnings are directly tied to how much time you put in. Stop working, income stops. Simple as that. This also covers that additional active income, like driving for Uber after your main job or selling crafts you make. Still need your active time.
Okay, so that difference is fundamental, but let's get to the core of it. Why does passive income matter to you, the listener? Why is it so important for pretty much everyone to think about building this kind of income, not just the super rich?
Oh, it's absolutely crucial for several really big reasons. First, stability. Angela Moore, a financial planner, points out that income diversification just provides huge stability. Passive income acts like this critical buffer, right? It protects you if you lose your main income, maybe from unexpected layoffs, getting sick, disability, even discrimination.
And we saw a brutal real-world example of just how vulnerable active income can be with the COVID pandemic back in 2020. Mass layoffs everywhere. Whole industries stopped overnight.
Absolutely devastating. There was a study by the International Labor Organization, that's a UN agency, in early 2021. It found the pandemic caused the loss of 255 million full-time jobs globally in 2020 alone. Just think about that number. 250 million people suddenly jobless, often with no safety net. Passive income. That gives you a layer of protection, breathing room when life throws those curveballs. Second reason, and this is a big one for quality of life, time freedom, genuine time freedom. Passive income starts to untie you from that need to constantly trade time for money. Makes you less constrained by the clock. And this lets you focus on things you actually enjoy. Hobbies you've put off, travel, learning new skills, experiencing different cultures. It just leads to a much better lifestyle, higher quality of life. It lets you live more fully. Third, it's essential for retirement planning. I mean, really essential. Without passive income streams, how do you genuinely stop working, say, after 50 or 60? Your active income just stops. Now, sure, some countries have pension systems mandatory or optional. But with inflation, especially in developing countries, those pensions often just aren't enough for a comfortable retirement, or even a moderate one. Passive income becomes your ticket to financial security later in life. And finally, resilience. Passive income helps you weather storms, like recessions and economic crises. Even if your main job income dips or profits from your primary business take a hit during a downturn, your passive streams can help cushion that blow, keep you stable, maybe even give you capital to snap up opportunities when things are cheaper. That's like a financial shock absorber.
That's a really powerful case for the why. Okay, so that leads us right to the big question everyone's probably thinking now. What are the actual sources, the concrete strategies for building this passive income stuff? And it's worth remembering, right? Different things suit different people. The goal is to find what fits your strengths, your resources. Let's start with the classic, rental properties.
Right. The core idea is simple enough. You own property, you rent it out, you get regular income. Now, yes, it usually takes some initial capital to buy and maybe fix up the property, but the rents can be short-term, like vacation rentals you list online or long-term traditional leases.
But okay, what if someone listening doesn't have that big chunk of capital to buy a whole property? I mean, that down payment feels impossible for a lot of people. Does that just lock them out of the stream?
Not necessarily. This is where you can get creative with what some people call leveraged income.
Hmm.
The source material actually had this fascinating example. Someone rents a large apartment. They
Really?
use, say, one-third for themselves. Then they furnish the other two-thirds nicely, like a hotel room, and subrent it on Airbnb or similar platforms. Done right, that can actually cover the entire rent for the apartment and maybe even make a 50% profit on top. You're using a leased asset to make money. Another really common example, especially in the U.S., is getting a mortgage to buy a place, renting it out, and using that rental income to pay the mortgage payments. You're essentially using the bank's money, their capital, to build equity and create a passive income stream for yourself over time.
That's clever, yeah, leveraging other people's assets or capital. But what about someone really starting from almost zero? Maybe they can't get a mortgage yet, or subrenting isn't an option. Are there ways to get into real estate income with really small capital?
Absolutely. For smaller amounts, you could look into real estate investment trusts, REITs. These are basically funds, often publicly traded like stocks, that own or manage a whole bunch of income-generating properties, apartments, malls, offices, whatever. You buy shares in the REIT. The REIT collects all the rents from its properties, and then it has to, by law, distribute most of those rental profits back to shareholders like you. So you get exposure to real estate income without buying a building. Other options: renting out unused parts of where you already live, a spare room, a whole floor if you have one, maybe extra space in a big apartment. You could even rent out storage space like an empty garage or part of a warehouse if you have access to that. There are platforms now, especially in the West, specifically for renting out these kinds of extra spaces. Okay, the second big form of passive income, and maybe one of the easiest ways to start for many people, is stock dividends. Simple concept. Publicly listed companies make profits. They often decide to give a chunk of those profits back to their investors, their shareholders. That payment is a dividend. It's basically your reward for owning a piece of that company. Now, companies don't have to pay dividends, but many stable, profitable ones do regularly. It shows they're doing well, keeps investors happy. The amount you get varies, obviously, company to company, year to year. And when they pay quarterly, twice a year, annually, that's up to the company too. But it can be a steady source of income just from owning shares.
Yeah, and we've seen some real examples just recently, like Blue Owl Capital. They manage assets, right? They announced on February 9th they were paying 14 cents per share on March 5th. Or Chevron, the big energy company. Early February, they announced a quarterly dividend of $1.63 per share, payable March 11th. So this is real money flowing back to people just for holding the stock.
The third really powerful area is income from intellectual property rights, IP. This is about creating something, usually something with a creative aspect just once. But then it keeps generating returns every time someone uses it, buys it, or licenses it down the road.
Right. Like writing a book. You write it once, but every copy sold brings in royalties, potentially for years, even decades. Same idea for creating digital content online, maybe a blog, a YouTube channel. You can earn from ads or subscriptions or selling related products, digital courses or online lessons like on Udemy or Skillshare. Perfect example. Create it once, sell it many times. And patents, of course. If you invent something useful, you can get paid every time someone uses or licenses your invention. It's about leveraging your brain power, your creativity.
Exactly. Okay, fourth area, investing in a business project. This means you put up capital, money for someone else's project or business, but you don't actively run it day to day. You're like a silent partner or maybe an early investor. And in return for your capital, you get a share of the profits. You can do this in different ways. Angel investing in startups, putting money into venture capital funds, maybe smaller local micro investments in a friend's growing business, or even using those online crowdsourcing investment platforms that connect investors with new companies.
Okay, so those are some big ones. And beyond those, here are some maybe quicker, often more accessible ideas that still tap into passive income, sometimes with less cash needed up front. You could rent out specialized equipment. Maybe you own some tools, party gear, a nice camera setup. Rent it out. Or if you live somewhere it makes sense, rent out your car when you're not using it. There are platforms for that now. Selling photos to stock photo sites like Shutterstock or Adobe Stock. Take the picture once, potentially sell it over and over. Then there's affiliate marketing. You basically promote other companies' products online, maybe on a blog or social media. You get a commission if someone buys through your link. Or if you've got the tech skills, creating a mobile app or even a simple mobile game. Income could come from ads or in-app purchases long after the main development work is done. And finally, drop shipping. You set up an online store, but you don't actually hold any inventory. When someone buys, the product ships directly from your supplier to the customer. You're basically the marketer and sales manager, not the warehouse.
And what really connects all these different ideas, from owning apartments to selling stock photos, is this overarching fundamental strategy, the basic principle for generating significant passive income. It's actually pretty elegant in its simplicity. You work your main job, right? Generate that active income,
Yeah.
and then you strategically, consistently use that active income to buy or create assets that regularly spit out passive income.
It sounds simple, yeah. But it definitely takes time, discipline. Yet when you actually stick with it, it really does seem to work like magic over the long haul, doesn't it? Almost feels too good to be true sometimes.
It feels like magic, yeah. But it's really just mathematics at work. It's the incredible power of compound interest or compounding returns. When the profits your investments generate aren't just taken out and spent, but are added back to your original capital, well, now you have a larger base. And that larger base then earns even more profit next time around. It snowballs. This compounding effect means that even small, consistent contributions over time can lead to truly mind-boggling long-term results. Results that are hard to even picture at the start. It's your money working for you, and then the earnings from your money start working for you too.
So really, if you're listening to this, you are absolutely on the right track just by thinking differently about how you use your time, your talents, and maybe most importantly, how you can leverage the money you do have to generate even more income. You're already starting to think like the wealthy do.
And maybe here's the truly powerful thought to leave you with. The incredible long-term potential isn't in finding one magic bullet. It's in consistently applying that core principle. Using your active income, however much or little you have to start, to build those passive income assets. Even small, steady steps, buying one dividend stock, renting out one spare room, creating one small digital product when done consistently over time. That can lead to a financial transformation that might seem completely unimaginable right now. That's the real power of compounding at work, building your financial freedom, one passive stream at a time.